My birthday this year was anything but cheerful. My kids had stopped by the night before to wish me well, as they had pressing plans for the actual day. I could tell they had remembered it last minute. Their wishes felt rushed, almost like a formality. They stayed for just 10 minutes, handed me a bouquet of flowers and a shiny gift bag containing a box of chocolates and a cosmetic set. Sure, it was nice, but it lacked the warmth I was secretly craving. My husband, Michael, was late at work as usual. He managed to call during his lunch break, saying with his mouth full of food, "Let's celebrate this weekend properly." It's not like this is a milestone birthday. Work's been so hectic, I can barely find time to eat. I am just exhausted. I knew him too well after all these years of marriage to get my hopes up. Most likely, when the weekend rolled around, he would collapse onto the couch in front of the television, and any mention of going out would lead to an endless list of excuses. He might say it was too cold or that his back hurt. And if I somehow succeeded in dragging him to a restaurant, he would sit there with such a sour look on his face, I would wish I had not bothered. As I thought about this, I remembered last year's big milestone, my 50th birthday. Even then, Michael had not bothered to make it special. We ended up at a restaurant for a couple of hours, and not even on the day of my birthday. "Oh, by the way, Sarah," Michael continued over the phone, still chewing, "Mom and Amanda might stop by to see you. Amanda's on vacation, and you two get along well enough, right? You'll enjoy it." And with that, he hung up. I stood there stunned. So instead of celebrating with my husband, I would be hosting his mother and his sister? Not that I disliked them, but this was not what I had expected for my birthday. To make things more complicated, they lived in a neighboring town, which meant they would likely stay overnight. The thought drained whatever enthusiasm I had left. Sure enough, about an hour later, Michael's mother and sister arrived. They settled in at the table I had set with care. The mood was salvaged only by my best friend, Lisa. Lisa swept into my apartment like a whirlwind of energy, immediately lighting up the room. She wore a vibrant, colorful dress that would have looked garish on anyone else, but somehow looked stunning on her. She completed the look with bold wooden jewelry and bright red lipstick. Michael's mother and sister exchanged glances as Lisa made her grand entrance, bringing with her a contagious, festive energy. Despite everything, I had done my best as a host. I always made sure there was fresh, home-cooked food, even on ordinary days. For my birthday, I had pulled out all the stops. There were several kinds of salads, beautifully arranged meat and fish platters, a hot dish that filled the air with a mouth-watering aroma, and potatoes baked with a special recipe I was proud of. The guests were glued to the table, devouring everything. But me? I just could not shake my melancholy. Lisa noticed. She shot me a look and gestured subtly toward the oven, silently asking if it was time to check on the cake. Underscore 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 underscore. I was relieved to escape to the kitchen, away from the watchful eyes of my mother-in-law, Carol, and my sister-in-law, Amanda. Lisa followed me, shutting the door tightly behind us. "You know, this is all your fault," she said, leaning against the counter. "You have spent your whole life putting everyone else first. That is where you went wrong. Be honest, Sarah, are you really happy they are here?" I shook my head, unable to argue. "Exactly my point," Lisa said firmly. "I mean, if your husband and kids were sitting at the table with you, that would be different. But why are they here? To eat your amazing food and crash on your freshly washed sheets." I tried to wave her off, but Lisa was on a roll. "They only think about themselves. And let us not forget your husband, Michael, and the kids. They have been taking you for granted for years. Remember that time you and I went to visit Marissa for a couple of days? Michael called you within hours, whining that he was hungry. Never mind that you had cooked enough food to feed an army and packed it neatly in containers in the fridge. He could not find it, like a toddler lost in a pantry." I smiled at the memory. I had almost abandoned our trip to rush home, terrified that Michael might starve in front of a fully stocked fridge. Lisa had talked me out of it then, and I was forever grateful. Lisa shook her head in mock exasperation. And let us talk about the kids. Honestly, I still do not understand why you did their school projects for them. You should have been awarded their diplomas instead of them. Remember when Danny fell asleep and you spent the entire night gluing together some ridiculous craft project for his shop class? But I love them, I said defensively. I love my family, and I enjoy taking care of them. Is that so bad? Lisa sighed and crossed her arms. No, Emily, it is not bad to love your family. It is bad to love them at the expense of yourself. You have spoiled them so much that they take you completely for granted. They do not even think about your feelings. Tell me, what did Michael get you for your birthday? I hesitated, feeling a flush of embarrassment. Nothing, I admitted quietly. I tried to console myself with the hope that maybe he had something planned for later in the evening. Lisa threw her hands up. That is my point. He does not see your birthday as any different from any other day. Except now, it means a fancier dinner, in the company of his mother and sister. How thoughtful. I stayed silent, but deep down, I knew Lisa was right. It did not make me feel any better, though. Lisa continued, her voice softening. I made it clear from the start that I am a person, not some unpaid maid. My daughter wants to wear a blouse? Great, she can iron it herself. My husband wonders if there is food at home. Of course there is, whatever he finds in the fridge or picks up at the store. It is not rocket science. And you know what? We are all happier for it. I thought about Lisa's approach. It was so different from mine. Her family often ordered takeout or ate ready-made meals, and cleaning was more of a monthly event than a daily chore. For Lisa, life was about living bike rides with her family, exploring new trails, and making memories. Meanwhile, I took pride in being the perfect homemaker. Nothing, I believed, could match the taste and warmth of home-cooked meals prepared with love. Dusting and cleaning were rituals for me, not occasional tasks. Still, as I stood there in the kitchen, listening to Lisa, I could not help but wonder if she was onto something. Underscore 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 underscore. Lisa and her husband often surprised each other with little gestures and went on regular dates. It was their way of keeping the spark alive. Meanwhile, I had always prided myself on having a spotless home and a dinner table full of dishes to cater to everyone's tastes. But as Lisa described her life, filled with love, spontaneity, and shared experiences, I felt an unfamiliar pang of envy. For the first time, I saw my friend in a new light. In the past, I had silently judged Lisa for not being as meticulous a homemaker as I was. But now, standing in my kitchen, I realized she had something I lacked: balance. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I was the one responsible for my unhappiness. I had set myself up to be the workhorse of the family. As I thought about it, I felt a bitter truth settle over me. To my family, I was not much more than a living, breathing utility. My primary functions were to cook, clean, and cater to their needs. Never mind that I had a demanding job of my own. I worked long shifts at the city's rescue service, 24 hours on and 36 hours off. After those exhausting shifts, all I wanted was to collapse into bed and get a solid 6 hours of sleep. But if Michael or the kids needed something, they had no qualms about waking me up, no matter how tired I was. And their idea of urgent was often ridiculous. Michael might suddenly realize his favorite shirt for a meeting was wrinkled and come knocking on the bedroom door. "Emily, please. Just iron it for me real quick." So I would shuffle to the ironing board like a zombie bear. It was the same story with the kids. Danny and Christine, our son and daughter, were close in age. When they were younger, I worked tirelessly to be the perfect mom. I took them to music lessons, art classes, museums, and the park. I helped with homework, read them bedtime stories, and even tackled their school projects. Christine had a knack for convincing me to do the hard work for her. "Mom, this craft project is impossible," she would say, and somehow I would find myself gluing together elaborate creations while she watched TV. Danny was no better. They left me feeling like I had gone to school 3 times, once for myself and twice more for them. When they graduated and moved to a university in the next city over, I thought I might get a breather. But even then, they kept me on my toes. Their dorms were only an hour away by train, yet they rarely visited. Our conversations were mostly limited to quick, obligatory calls. One day, Christine answered the phone with an irritated sigh. "Mom, why do you always call? Normal people text. It is faster and less annoying. Or leave a voicemail or something." Her dismissive tone stung, so I decided to teach her a lesson. For 2 weeks, I resisted the urge to call or text, even though it felt like torture. I missed her and Danny terribly, but I stayed strong. Eventually, Christine broke the silence. She called me, her voice cheerful and sweet, as if nothing had happened. "Hi, Mom. How are you?" "I missed you so much," she said. My heart soared. Maybe she was not as indifferent as I had feared. She was just busy with school, I told myself. We chatted for a while about this and that, and I felt a flicker of hope. Then came the real reason for her call. "Mom, I need your help. I have this term paper due, and you are my only hope. Can you write it for me? Underscore 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 underscore. "It's such a tough topic, and I know you're amazing at this kind of thing," Christine said over the phone, her tone sweet and persuasive. I knew exactly what she meant by help. In Christine's dictionary, that word translated to "do it for me" and "make it quick." I was reminded of her school days, when she never wrote a single report or essay without my assistance. Somehow, she always managed to twist things so that I would end up doing the work. But this time, I decided it was time for a change. My kids were adults now, and it was their turn to handle their responsibilities. "Christine," I said gently but firmly, "you're in college now. Essays and term papers are part of your learning. You can handle this yourself." Her response was silence, followed by a curt, "Okay, Mom." After that, she hardly called or texted me for weeks. It was a minor miracle that Christine and Danny stopped by to congratulate me on the eve of my birthday. They barely stepped past the hallway. Danny handed me a wilted bouquet of 5 chrysanthemums, and Christine shoved a gift bag into my hands. I thanked them anyway and invited them to stay the night. They both declined, saying they had to catch the next train. As they were leaving, I overheard a snippet of their conversation while they waited for the elevator. "We can't show up empty-handed," Christine whispered. "Good thing we had Mom's gift ready. Her birthday's tomorrow anyway." My heart sank. It turned out that they had re-gifted me something meant for another celebration that had fallen through. That night, I tossed and turned, replaying this scene over and over in my head. Where had I gone wrong? What mistakes had I made in raising my kids? By the time my birthday arrived, my mood was already in tatters. Lisa tried her best to liven up the somber atmosphere, but even her boundless energy could not fully lift the gloom. After she left, my mother-in-law, Carol, and sister-in-law, Amanda, settled on the couch in the living room to watch TV. I retreated to the kitchen to wash the few dishes from the modest gathering. As I stood at the sink, my thoughts spiraled. When my kids do not need me, they push me aside like some annoying fly. But the moment they need help, it is all "Mommy, please." I am tired of being their fallback, their safety net. And Michael? He barely acknowledges me anymore. I am invisible to him, taken for granted. I scrubbed a plate furiously, lost in my thoughts. When was the last time he brought me flowers or said something kind? I always greet him with a hot meal and a warm smile, but does he even notice? The plate slipped from my soapy hands, shattering on the floor. I stared at the broken shards. Just like me, I whispered. They use me until I break, and then they do not even notice. Tears streamed down my face as I knelt to pick up the pieces. Suddenly, I heard Michael's voice. I had not even realized he had come home. "Why are you crying?" he asked, his tone lighthearted. "Is it because of the plate? You women are so emotional, crying over every little thing." I looked up at him silently, my tears still falling. "That's better," he said with a grin. "No need for all that drama. Now, come on. I've got a surprise for you." For a moment, his words jolted me out of my despair. Could it be? Did he actually plan something for my birthday? It turned out Michael had not completely forgotten my birthday after all. My heart softened slightly as I thought. Maybe I judged him too harshly. "Wait a second," I said. "Let me set the table in the living room. It's bigger there. Maybe your mom and Amanda will join us?" "Of course we will," Amanda chimed in, already helping me carry the plates into the living room. "By the way, those baked potatoes you made? They were incredible." I busied myself setting the table, mentally scolding myself for breaking down earlier. Why did I let myself fall apart like that? Michael has been working all day. He couldn't leave early, but he still brought me a gift. That must mean he loves me and appreciates me, right? Finally, we all sat down at the table. After a quick bite, Michael stood up dramatically and announced, "And now for the present." I felt a flutter of excitement. What could it be? The new phone I've been eyeing? Jewelry? Something sentimental? My imagination ran wild until Michael returned with the gift. "Here it is," he said proudly, handing me a box. I tore into the wrapping, eager to see what was inside. And then I froze. It was a mop. "You mentioned the handle on the old one broke," Michael explained, his tone enthusiastic. "So I got you this top-of-the-line model. You'll love it. It makes cleaning so much easier. Now you'll actually enjoy it." The room went silent. My hands fell to my sides, and the smile vanished from my face. Amanda was the first to break the awkward pause, laughing nervously. "Oh, Michael, you're such a joker. What a prank, you almost got us." Michael's mother, Carol, chuckled awkwardly. I didn't realize my son had such a sense of humor. I turned to Michael, searching his face for a hint of a joke, some sign this was all part of a bigger surprise. But he just stood there, looking defensive. "What?" he finally snapped, his voice tinged with bitterness. "After this, I don't even want to give you gifts anymore." Carol quickly stood up and stormed to her room, slamming the door behind her. Amanda coughed awkwardly, choking on the potato she had been praising minutes earlier. Carol hurriedly patted her daughter on the back. Then, after a moment, Carol turned to me and said, "You know, Emily, I think it's best if we don't stay the night." "Right, Amanda." Amanda nodded eagerly. "Yes, of course. You've got enough to deal with." Within 15 minutes, Carol and Amanda were gone. I sat alone on the couch, staring at the mop and feeling utterly bewildered. Underscore 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 underscore. A few weeks later, I decided to host a family dinner. It had been almost a month since I had seen Danny and Christine, and I missed them terribly. I wanted us all to sit together, share a meal, and catch up. Michael had been buried in work since my birthday, and we had barely spoken beyond the basics. This dinner felt like my chance to reconnect with everyone. I put extra care into the preparations, cooking their favorite dishes and setting the table just so. As the final touches came together, my phone rang. It was Danny. "Hey, Mom," he said casually. "I can't make it tonight. I got invited to a birthday party." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. "What?" "Danny, why didn't you tell me earlier?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. It was all very last minute, Danny explained over the phone. Masha wasn't even sure she was going to celebrate until today. But now she's decided to go for it. "Masha?" I asked, confused. "Who's Masha?" "You know, the girl I like. I'm sure I've mentioned her, he replied dismissively. This is the first time I'm hearing about her, I said firmly. Well, it doesn't matter, he cut me off. A birthday only happens once a year, and I can't miss it. I picked out such an amazing gift for Masha. You wouldn't believe it. And with that, he hung up. I stared at my phone in disbelief. He's going to her party? And with a gift? But for my birthday, he brought me wilted chrysanthemums, I thought bitterly. Before I could dwell on it, the phone rang again. This time, it was Christine. Hi, Mom. I'm on my way, but I'll be a little late. By the way, can you load the first chapters of my term paper onto my flash drive? I don't want to forget it, she said casually. I froze. Oh no, I completely forgot. I admitted. Are you serious? Christine's tone turned sharp. Do you have any idea how much you've let me down? Christine, we'll figure something out, I began, trying to explain. What's there to figure out? My theory exam is on Monday. What am I supposed to do now? She snapped before abruptly hanging up. I tried calling her back, but she wouldn't answer. Deep down, I already knew that Christine, like Danny, would not be coming to the family dinner. Well, I thought with a sad smile, I guess it'll just be dinner with Michael. It'll be like a little date. Michael arrived right on time, just as I was taking the French-style meat out of the oven. Go wash your hands. We'll eat soon, I said, trying to sound cheerful. And I'm not empty-handed this time, Michael said with a sly grin, holding out a small velvet box. Here, take a look. My heart skipped a beat as I took the box. With bated breath, I opened it. Inside was a gorgeous gold brooch, encrusted with deep blue stones that looked like sapphires. It was exquisite, the kind of gift I dreamed of receiving. Oh, it's stunning, I gasped, unable to hide my delight. Michael seemed pleased with my reaction. I thought you'd like it. I picked it out right away. I reached out to examine it more closely, but Michael stopped me. Let me put it away so it doesn't get lost. Confused, I looked up at him. What do you mean? It's for Amanda, he explained casually. Her retirement party is next week. A gift like this seemed perfect for the occasion. For Amanda? I repeated, my voice rising. Why are you yelling? Yes, it's for her, Michael said, frowning. She deserves something nice for such an important milestone. I stared at him, speechless. Sensing my anger, Michael grabbed the box and hurried out of the room. When he returned a few minutes later, I was clearing the table. Without a word, I packed up the untouched food into containers and placed it all in the fridge. But we haven't eaten yet, Michael said, puzzled. Ignoring him, I walked out of the kitchen, shutting the door behind me. The only person who could truly understand how I felt was Lisa. I grabbed my things and went straight to her house. As soon as she opened the door, I fell into her arms. Stay at my cabin for a while, Lisa said after I told her everything. It's quiet, and it'll take you just as long to get to work from there as it does from home. Besides, maybe it's time for Michael to figure out what life is like without you holding everything together. I don't want to impose on you and your husband, I said hesitantly. Underscore 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 underscore. Stop worrying, Lisa said with a reassuring wave of her hand. You're not inconveniencing anyone. My husband hates the cabin, he's a city guy through and through, and the kids are the same. I'm usually the only one out there. Sarah couldn't help but think it was odd. Shouldn't a husband and wife enjoy vacations together? But she kept her thoughts to herself. After all, it was not her place to judge. Everyone lived their lives differently, and as long as they were happy, that was all that mattered. Then again, she and Michael had spent years vacationing together like inseparable partners. And what had it led to? A mop for a birthday gift. Meanwhile, Lisa's family seemed to have found a perfect balance. Lisa's offer was persuasive, and unexpectedly, Sarah found herself agreeing. Without telling anyone, she packed up and went to Lisa's cabin. On the way, she indulged in hopeful daydreams of Michael calling her, realizing how much he missed her, and apologizing for his behavior. But days passed and the phone stayed silent. It wasn't until the third day that Michael finally called. "Sarah, are you at the store or something?" he asked casually. "We're out of cheese. Don't forget to grab some." Sarah blinked in disbelief. "I've been gone for 3 days, and you're just now noticing?" 3 days. Michael sounded surprised. "I thought you were mad at me and decided to sleep in the guest room. No wonder the fridge is running low. When are you coming back?" "I don't know yet," Sarah replied curtly. "Consider it a vacation." "Vacation? But who's going to iron my shirts?" "I'm running low," Michael said, genuinely baffled. "And the food, freshly cooked, of course. The iron's in the cupboard across from the bathroom, and the store is just down the block," Sarah said before hanging up. Just a week ago, she might have rushed home at the sound of distress in his voice. Deep down, she had always found a strange comfort in Michael's dependence on her. But now, that dynamic no longer appealed to her. For the first time, Sarah wanted to be seen as a woman, not just a housekeeper. Life at the cabin was a revelation. She woke up at 7:30 instead of 6 o'clock, enjoying an extra hour of sleep. There were no breakfasts to prepare, no school lunches to pack, no chores demanding her immediate attention. Instead, she finally tackled the long-delayed projects she'd been putting off for months. In the evenings, she curled up with her favorite novels, rediscovering the joy of reading just for herself. To her surprise, Sarah felt a spark of vitality she hadn't felt in years. One morning, a neighbor waved to her from across the yard and called out, "Good morning, beautiful." Lisa, watching the interaction, chuckled. "Careful with him, he's a shameless flirt." Sarah laughed it off. "After all these years with Michael, I'm not worried about some neighbor stealing me away." She had no intention of betraying her husband, of course, but she couldn't deny how nice it felt to be noticed. To have someone see her as more than a caretaker. It was a sharp contrast to Michael's idea of romance, like the time he planned a romantic evening, but spent more time complimenting the dinner rolls she baked than looking at her in her black dress. As the days went on, Michael called more frequently. His tone shifted from casual to mildly desperate. "My stomach's a mess from the pizza," he grumbled during one call. "And I can't figure out how to use that mop you bought. It doesn't work like you do. I'm all over the place here." He tried to laugh it off, but Sarah wasn't amused. For the first time, she fully understood what she had done over the years. By catering to his every need, she had turned her husband into someone completely reliant on her, incapable of managing even the simplest household tasks. The kids started calling too. Danny was the first. He seemed more annoyed than concerned. "So, you're rebelling now, Mom? At your age," he huffed. Christine wasn't far behind. She still hadn't forgiven me for not writing her term paper. Apparently, her professor had extended the deadline. "You're out in the countryside doing nothing anyway. Would it kill you to help with my paper?" she whined. "Write it yourself," I snapped. "You're old enough to take responsibility for your own work. Do you remember how much I helped you in school?" That was enough. Christine quickly changed her tone. "Oh, I see. First, you do everything for me and teach me to rely on you, and now you want to teach me a lesson." "It's not about that," I replied. "I just want you to grow into a decent, independent person." "And I'm not one now?" Christine asked, incredulous. "No," I said bluntly. "And by the way, I'm still waiting for an apology." "An apology?" she asked, sounding genuinely surprised. "For yelling at me over your term paper and for ruining the family dinner you didn't bother to attend," I said firmly. "Do you think I'll just put up with that? I've had enough." When I finally returned home, the sight that greeted me was both amusing and disheartening. Michael had tried his best to keep the house in order, but it was clear he was in over his head. Dust clung to every surface, the dishes were streaked with grease, and there were dark stains on the cups. The refrigerator was completely empty except for a lonely pizza box sitting in the trash. I almost grabbed the trash to take it out but stopped myself. No, I didn't give myself this break to fall back into the same old routine. Michael returned from work and lit up when he saw me. "You're back," he exclaimed, looking around the apartment expectantly. But nothing had changed, the mess remained untouched, and the kitchen table was still bare. "I ordered pizza for us," I said with a smile. "Let's eat, and then we'll clean up together. I'll teach you how to keep things in order. It's not hard, and it's a skill you'll actually find useful." "Pizza again?" Michael groaned. "I can't stand it anymore." "Sorry," I said, shrugging. "I can't cook in a mess like this. And from now on, we'll split the household work evenly, including the cooking. Half the dinners are on you." "Lisa's brainwashed you," he grumbled, clearly annoyed. "She hasn't brainwashed me. She's shown me how to be happy," I replied. "And I'm sure we can figure this out together." Michael muttered under his breath but sat down to eat the pizza. Over the next few days, I patiently walked him through the basics of keeping a house. Every other day, it was his turn to cook dinner. The first attempts were disastrous, burnt, undercooked, or simply inedible, but I encouraged him, assuring him he'd improve with practice. It wasn't long before the kids chimed in, clearly unhappy with the changes. Christine was especially vocal. "Mommy, when's our next family dinner?" "I miss you so much," she cooed into the phone. "We can meet anytime, but a big dinner's not happening." "I don't have the time to spend hours in the kitchen," I replied calmly. "Watch out, Mom," Christine warned. "Men don't like independent wives. Dad might just leave you for someone else." I ignored her comment, though it gave me pause. Maybe I've been too strict, I thought. There's a balance to be found here. Later that day, a loud crash from the kitchen pulled me from my thoughts. I rushed in to find Michael surrounded by pots, bowls, and a mess of beets and carrots scattered across the floor. "I dropped the bowl," he explained sheepishly, already picking it up. "But don't worry, I washed it. I'm making borscht." "Borscht?" I asked, surprised. "Yeah," he said, blushing slightly. "Do you remember when I used to make it back in college? You came over, and we ate it together." "Of course, I remember," I said, smiling warmly. "I thought I'd give it another try." "Come sit. It's ready to taste," he said. I sat down at the table, watching him serve the soup with a mix of pride and amusement. "Well?" he asked, his voice tinged with nervous excitement. "How does it taste?" "It's delicious," I said sincerely, even if it wasn't perfect. What mattered was the effort, the thought, and the willingness to try. Looking at him, I realized this was the man I loved, the one I'd always loved. He wasn't perfect, but neither was I. Cooking and cleaning were things he could learn, little by little. And as I watched him beam with pride over his borscht, I knew we'd find our rhythm. Together.